We officially have an impeachment inquiry. Does that mean President Donald Trump is going to be removed from office? I'll tell you in a second. We have a lawsuit against a major newspaper in the United States of America. Is it a good thing, a bad thing? I'll tell you. And finally, last but certainly not least, a picture with a dog. Is this a major controversy? Some people think it is. I'm right, coming up right now. Uh-oh, we officially have an impeachment inquiry. I wish there was only somebody out there, some wise soul who'd been telling you this was coming for a long time. There is. That person is, of course, me. You see, you have to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. You know the story about Frankenstein's monster? The monster itself is actually not named Frankenstein in the original story. It's the doctor who's named Frankenstein, and he creates for himself this monster. Well, eventually the monster comes alive. We've all seen the movies. And then the monster's too powerful to control. That is exactly what impeachment is to the Democrat Party. The head of the Democrat Party is not Nancy Pelosi. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Adam Schiff. It's not Jerry Nadler. It's not Elizabeth Warren. Oh! The head of the Democrat Party is impeachment. Impeachment is now in charge. Impeachment drives the train. Impeachment will decide when the train stops, and that train ain't stopping anytime soon. Yes, today they had an official vote on the House floor. Democrats decided to pass an official impeachment inquiry. Republicans are, of course, mad about it. Democrats are cheering, yes, this is the end of Trump. Well, how should you feel about it? We'll get to that in a second. First, here's Devin Nunes talking about it.
What we're seeing among Democrats on the Intelligence Committee down in the SCIF right now is like a cult. These are a group of people loyally following their leader as he bounces from one outlandish conspiracy theory to another. And the media are the cult followers, permanently stationed outside the committee spaces, pretending to take everything seriously because they too support the goal of removing the president from office.
Gentleman's time's
Regardless
expired.
of the
Gentleman's
means
time's expired.
I yield the gentleman 15 seconds to close.
Gentleman's recognized.
After today, the House Intelligence Committee ceases to exist. Oversight is not being done. And we now have a full-fledged impeachment committee in the basement of the Capitol. Think about that, America.
Now that is something to talk about for a moment. You hear what he said about the House Intelligence Committee ceasing to exist. What does he mean by that? Well, he's not necessarily being hyperbolic. Here's the thing about impeachment inquiries. This is information you won't get on all the other boring shows. They grind the House process, any House business, to a halt. Everything stops now. There's no taxes, there's no spending, there's no abortion, there's no foreign policy, there's no addressing any of the issues the American people actually care about. An impeachment inquiry, an official impeachment inquiry, which we now have, makes the House purely an impeachment body. And not only that, various committees have impeachment inquiry authority. Now, what does that mean to you? Okay, you have this big body that's Congress, right? And within Congress, you have various committees. You have Ways and Means, you have the Judiciary, you have the Intelligence Committee. Well, those committees now can call their own witnesses and have their own hearings. The Banking Committee can get in on this. Anybody. This is now everybody's impeachment inquiry now. Again, what does this mean to you? It means Congress will do absolutely nothing to improve your life. Not that they ever have anyway. They'll do absolutely nothing to improve your life until this is over. It also means what you're going to have for the next few months, and we'll give you all the coverage right here on the First, Channel 248. It means you're going to have months of public show trials. Every single Democrat congressman, you know, they're all up for re-election in 2020. That's how the House of Representatives works. They're all going to go for their FaceTime out there. You tell me about Donald Trump. Tell me why Trump is evil. You remember the last time Jerry Nadler had one of these things? He had somebody on from the Nixon administration. I'm not making that up. This is what these people will do. All this is a public show trial. It's a chance for these people to get FaceTime. And it's a chance for them to try to placate their base with, look, I told you we're going to impeach him. Trust me, we're going to impeach him. Impeachment's coming. Impeachment's coming. Impeachment is coming. Adam Schiff went up to the microphone today and, tried to take a victory lap. But boy, is there anybody who lacks more charisma than Adam Schiff? Here he was.
For the past several weeks, the Intelligence Committee, the Oversight Committee, and the Foreign Affairs Committee have engaged in an intensive investigation. That work, which has been conducted with equal opportunities for both parties to question witnesses, has added a great deal to our understanding of the President's conduct, as evident in the July 25 call record and the events that both preceded and followed that call. That work has necessarily occurred behind closed doors because we have had the task of finding the facts ourselves without the benefit of the investigation that the Justice Department declined to undertake. Despite attempts to obstruct, we have interviewed numerous witnesses. We have provided important testimony about the efforts to secure political favors from Ukraine, who have provided important testimony about the efforts to secure political favors from Ukraine. We have reviewed text messages among key players which show how securing political investigations was placed at the forefront of our foreign policy towards Ukraine. This resolution sets the stage for the next phase of our investigation, one in which the American people will have the opportunity to hear from the witnesses firsthand. We will continue to conduct this inquiry with the seriousness of purpose that our task deserves, because it is our duty and because no one is above the law.
Understand something. That is a man who wants to be Speaker of the House. In this current Democrat Party, in the current Democrat House of Representatives, you do not get to be Speaker of the House unless you can gather the votes from the radical Democrat base. You cannot gather those votes from the radical Democrat base unless you are all in on impeachment, which is why Adam Schiff has been driving so much of this impeachment stuff. And what did I just tell you? You heard him say it right there. We're going to have public hearings. There are going to be public hearings. The public will get to see about it. Now let's unpack what the charges are again here really quickly. The charges are that Donald Trump, on a phone call with Zelensky, the head of Ukraine, that he solicited political favors in return for U.S. help. The only trouble is, not only does Trump deny that, you'd expect that, Zelensky said that wasn't the case either. Oh, and there's more. We have the transcript of the call. We can read it for ourselves. There's nothing in there. That doesn't exist, not in black and white. So we've had all these new witnesses to the call of the transcript we already have to explain, well, you don't understand that there was stuff deleted, but you don't understand. We had another phone call. It's not going to work. And let me tell you something else. As far as not going to work, the reason this impeachment inquiry really won't work, the real reason, because the American people don't care. Yes, you care. You watch me. I care. I talk politics for a living. Everybody in the Democrat media cares. Everybody in the Republican media cares. All of us politicos, we care. But I have to tell you something, people, and this is important. I want you to pay attention. We don't win elections. Oh, we matter. Don't get me wrong. You matter. You got to go knock on doors, donate money, rally for your candidate. But we don't win elections. I know who I'm voting for in 2020. You know who you're voting for in 2020. You know what wins elections? Swing voters in swing states. A voter in Pennsylvania who voted for Barack Obama twice and then turned around and voted for Donald Trump last election, that guy, he is the one who's going to decide the next election. And that guy is not a political person. He's not watching every minute of this theater every single day like you are, like I am. He tunes in at night for 5 minutes after he gets home from work, dinner with the fam, say hi to the wife, wrestle around with the kids. What's going on? Oh, more Ukraine stuff. Okay, turns off the TV. That's how this works. And that guy doesn't give a crap about Ukraine, can't find Ukraine on a map. And this is the most important thing. He doesn't understand exactly what the impeachment inquiry is about. You see how that's a problem? The truth, so often, ladies and gentlemen, is simple. When both of my sons, when I call them in and I say, hey, who spilled the chocolate milk on the floor? And one son says, it wasn't me. And the other son says, Well, I mean, it really couldn't have been me because I was over at Johnny's house, and then when I got home, I couldn't get my shoes. That's the guilty one. The truth is simple. And if you're the Democrats, your job is not to try to impeach the president. Your job is to convince the American people why impeaching the president is a good thing, and that ship has already sailed. You see, if you have to explain it, if it's complicated, then you ain't going to be able to explain it. Time and time and time again, they've been running to the microphone telling you, well, I mean, you have to understand that this is why. I mean, it's complicated. It's like what Biden did, but not really. The American people have already tuned out because they know you're full of crap. And that's what you're seeing right now. Steve Scalise, you know, the congressman who got shot just because he was a Republican, he stepped up to the mic today as well, had this to say.
And when we talk about the vote, I think it's important to note, when you see that not only did every single Republican reject this Soviet-style impeachment process, but we were even joined by Democrats who couldn't stand it anymore. If you look at where we are right now, we're at an important point in history. Clearly, there are people that we serve with that don't like the results of the 2016 election. And that's their prerogative. But the country next year will be deciding who our president is going to be. It should not be Nancy Pelosi and a small group of people that she selects that get determined who's going to be our president.
You know, Steve Scalise is right about a lot of things a lot of the time, but he was really right about something he said in there. This is a new era, people, and we're not going back. I know that can be bad news for some people. That can be, you know, tough to take. And I understand that. It's easy to want things to be quiet. It's human nature to seek out peace. And you don't want to go home and fight with the wife every day, do you? Walk in the door, oh, you're burnt down. Nobody wants that. You want to go home and be, hi, love you too. That's nice. That's human nature, and that's fine. You don't have to feel bad about that. But here, this is important. You also need to accept when times have changed. We have moved past a time of political peace in the United States of America. Never before have we seen 3 straight years of trying to impeach a president because you didn't like the results of an election, with nothing concrete behind it. And that's what we've seen now, 3 years. And it's not just that it's changed what's happening now, although that's happened. This has changed how people will view things going forward. A Democrat will be president again one day. That's inevitable. Politics swings. You know, it's a pendulum. Everything's a pendulum. It will happen. And when that happens, Republicans, the Republican base, guess what they're going to demand? Guess what they are going to demand of their congressman? I want impeachment. I want an impeachment inquiry. I want trials. I want public hearings. And you know what, Democrats? That's the bed you've made. We have entered a total war period of politics. Politically, of course, is what I mean. A total war period. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is sacred. Norms do not matter anymore. Now it's impeach at any cost. Do whatever you can to overturn the last election. That is where we are. Finally, I want you to understand this. Everything that we're talking about here, everything Donald Trump is being accused of when it comes to Ukraine, it's what Joe Biden is on tape bragging about doing. Here he is.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Wow, that sounds a lot like holding money over another country's head until they take an action that you like. I could be wrong. That's exactly what they're accusing Donald Trump of doing. Joe Biden is bragging about it. You see, even if they were to be successful with this impeachment thing, at the end of that rabbit hole, you're going to find Joe Biden there. Yeah, and there's no defense for that. So how is all this going to play out? Let me work it out for you. After all the public hearings are done, after it's all been said and done, and this will be months, they will drag this on and on because they're in no rush to finish it. They will finally have to have an official vote on articles of impeachment. That is actually impeachment. We don't have impeachment right now. The Democrats will have to go to the House floor. Well, the whole House will have to go to the House floor, and they'll have to decide, are we going to file articles of impeachment against the President of the United States? And hear me on this, and hear me good. That will pass. They are going to file articles of impeachment against the President of the United States. As I told you at the very beginning of this monologue, that train has left the station. Impeachment runs the show. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen, and it's coming soon. Now, what is that? Where do we go from there? We go to the United States Senate. Once Donald Trump is impeached and once the House passes it, understand that Donald Trump will be an impeached president. Impeachment is not removal from office. From there, we go to the Senate, where the Senate will hold a trial. It is called a trial. And during that trial, they will decide whether President Donald Trump will be removed from office. Now, you all remember the Brett Kavanaugh thing, right? Stay with me. You remember the Brett Kavanaugh thing? Do you remember how nasty and vicious that got? You had little weenie senators like Jeff Flake getting intimidated by some lady yelling at him in an elevator. That was child's play compared to what they're going to do, what our national press and what Democrat activists are going to do to every GOP senator who they view that they can sway, because the Senate will be under mountains of pressure to actually remove the president from office. You have people like Lindsey Graham, who's already indicated this is a sham, this whole thing's a sham, and several GOP senators, to their credit, have already said that. And then you have people like Mitt Romney. How much media pressure do you think Mitt Romney's going to be able to withstand? How much? I've got news for you, people. It's not very much. He'll cave like a house of cards. It's coming. To talk about this and everything else, we are going to bring in my friend Sarah Gonzalez from Blaze TV. All of that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Welcome back to I'm Right with me, where I'm always right, but nevertheless, sometimes we feel the need to give you an alternative voice just so you can, compare and contrast that with how amazing I am, which leads me right into introducing my next guest, host of the news and why it matters on Blaze TV, Sarah Gonzalez. Sarah, with all the important things going on today, first I want to lead off with, how great do I look in this sport coat?
I was amazing. I was just thinking, how great does Jesse look in his sport coat? And then you asked me, so I'm really glad that I had a chance to answer that very important, pertinent question.
Well, I'm glad you did too. Look, I'm a bit of a mind reader. Okay, impeachment inquiry. It passes today. Your first thought when you saw it pass, were you surprised that it passed? Did you see that as being something that was inevitable? Talk about it.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised to see it pass in this House. I will be surprised if it goes anywhere in the Senate, but, you're looking at these secret meetings that were held by Adam Schiff. You're looking at all of this new alleged whistleblower information that just came out today that, alleges that the original whistleblower was someone who worked with the administration and had to return to his normal job because he was leaking information to the media. He had close ties to the Obama, Biden administration. So I'm not surprised to see them try to force this through on the same day that people are starting to find out that, maybe this original whistleblower, which is the entire reason that we've got all of this coming up, maybe this entire thing was, brought about by a whistleblower who didn't have good intentions in the first place. So they had to rush it through. They had no other choice.
I have made the argument that the whole impeachment madness is the Frankenstein's monster of the Democrat Party, that privately Nancy Pelosi, I believe that she would tell you, if she could actually get the words out, that she would tell you that this is a mistake. She knows it's a mistake. It's a loser for the Democrat Party as far as with the voters go. But that this has totally consumed them now. They've promised their base impeachment, impeachment, impeachment for 3 years, and now they're running it with basically the flimsiest thing I've ever heard. Do you think Pelosi actually wants to run with impeachment?
No, I don't. And that was the most shocking thing to me when all of this came about, was that Pelosi, for over a year, she had said, no, we're not going to talk about impeachment. And then all of a sudden, you know, with the flip of a switch, she decides now's the time to talk about impeachment. It does make me wonder, you know, there are all of these ties. Everyone in Washington is so closely associated with one another. Everyone in Washington is doing, you know, dealings for their family. It does make you wonder, does Pelosi have anything, you know, have a hand in any of the corrupt dealings that happened in Ukraine or any of the other foreign countries? And maybe she's trying to protect herself as well. I don't know. But what I do know is once we get to the bottom of all of the corruption that has gone on, I think there are going to be a lot of Washington elitists who, you know, are going to be taken down by it.
You put stock in that? I mean, I've heard this theory a lot, and I'm not saying that I don't, but that they know the reports are coming out soon from Barr and Durham, and they know that people are going to look bad, that some people, I mean, there's even talk of indictments. We'll see if that actually happens. But that so much of this impeachment talk is them trying to get out ahead of that and create enough noise so the public will ignore what the actual report says about what happened in 2016?
I mean, I have to believe it, because the only other alternative is that they are now doubling down on the strategy that lost them the election in 2016. They're doubling down on all of this rhetoric about how terrible Donald Trump is and how, you know, he is a serial killer and a rapist and a mass murderer and whatever else they want to call him. They want to paint this picture of him being this terrible person without any evidence to back it up. I mean, the American people very clearly rejected that. And instead of maybe learning and moving on from it, they're just doubling down on it. So I have to believe that there has to be a higher reason for them to do something so abrupt and so crazy.
There is a rumor, and I will say this is just a rumor. I've had a couple people tell me this quietly and privately, people I will not name, that Nancy Pelosi is gone. After this term, she is going to retire. She's going to walk away. In the very least, she's going to step down from the speakership. She's tired of the rat race. She doesn't want to try to control this nutso party anymore. And that Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler are competing with each other to try to earn that speakership, and that is what's driving a lot of this. That's why every day Jerry Nadler steps out there with his pants pulled up to his nose, giving some stupid hearing on something, and Adam Schiff does the exact same thing. Daily makes an idiot of himself, so you and I look at it and we're like, look at this moron, but their base looks at it and they're like, oh, this is a guy who will fight for the insane things that I love.
Well, that's terrifying. I had not heard that rumor, and now that you just told me, that's absolutely terrifying because, you know, say whatever you will about Nancy Pelosi, but she was at least one of the people who was sane enough, and that's saying a lot, but sane enough to say, okay, we're not going to just make these baseless accusations over nothing. You know, we need facts, we need evidence. We're not going to jump to impeachment. We're not going to, you know, jump to the Green New Deal. And she seems to be the only person keeping that party from just moving into radicalized socialism. So that's really terrifying because I don't know who else in that party would be willing to stand up and say, no, guys, we're not going over the cliff.
It is a little terrifying. And look, the truth of the matter is, and I'm actually not making fun of her for it, she's probably too old and doesn't have the energy anymore to do this. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, as much as I despise her, has been sharp as a tack for the last 20 or 30 years. And now she gives a press conference. She can't finish a sentence. She's struggling mightily to keep her dentures in her mouth. This is not somebody who has the energy to fight off Ilhan Omar and Cortez. She just does not, and she's tired of the rat race. She's the mad old grandma who sends the toddlers back to someone else.
It is interesting too because, you know, you look at all of these lawmakers and even some of the presidential candidates. You know, you have Joe Biden, who is kind of in the same vein as Nancy Pelosi. He can't really speak coherently. He's got his dentures falling out as well. I don't know why they don't just invest in Poligrip or something. But, you know, then you've got Donald Trump, who is the same age, but somehow he's always got the energy. He's always with it. He's always got it together. And then you've got Bernie Sanders, who just had a heart attack and got right back on the campaign trail, didn't skip a beat in the last Democratic debate. And it's very interesting to see the different, the different candidates, the different lawmakers, their ages, and just the differences in their health at this point.
Well, it is different. I mean, look at me. I age like a fine wine. And so look, everybody, you can't change the genes God gave you. That's just the way it is. Speaking of which, happy Halloween. I forgot to say that going in. I should ask just a quick off-the-wall question. Do you people have some special tradition on Halloween? What do you do?
Us people meaning what?
Oh, I don't. Well, I mean, I didn't know. Your last name was Gonzalez. How do you guys celebrate Halloween?
Same as everyone else. I'm not aware of any specific Halloween, trends with us Hispanics. I'm gonna go give out candy with the rest of them. Actually, I'm dressing up as Elizabeth Warren later. I'm gonna wear an Indian princess outfit.
No, you're not. Okay, well, we will definitely be sharing that from our page as well. All right, a quick shift of the gears here before I let you go. I know you're a busy woman. In all seriousness, this Washington Post being sued by Nicholas Sandmann thing, we're going to have his attorney on later on. We're going to talk about that. I view this as being a good thing. There are a lot of people that are scared of this. They don't like the idea, even though they hate the press, they don't like the idea of the press being scared of retribution from someone. I say that is fair game now. If the press is going to weaponize itself and just ruin anybody's life without verifying things, then, I mean, look, they should be a little scared. Isn't that a good thing?
I completely agree. I think that this is a monumental case as well, because it really will set a precedent for whether or not this country is going to hold the press accountable for things like that. And when you have, there's enough evidence to show that the press blatantly mischaracterized what happened with this young boy. So if we can't draw the line here, where does the line get drawn? And I think the answer is that it doesn't. And the press takes that as an invitation to just blast anyone they want, make up and publish whatever they want with no sort of accountability for that. So I completely agree. And as a journalist and a reporter, I understand the hesitation to not want to go that route. But when you can prove that these people blatantly did something in order to, change the narrative, to drive a narrative that they wanted, you got to hold them accountable for that.
You do. But look, we journalists like you and I, we have these high standards for what we ask. And that's how professionals like you and I do things, Sarah.
It's true.
Sarah Gonzalez, wanted to thank you so much for joining me tonight. Watch the news and why it matters on Blaze TV. It's one of my favorite shows. Love you, Sarah. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Coming right up, you're going to hear me talk about exactly what I asked Sarah about, the news media. How do we handle the news media? What's appropriate? Are they different today than they've been? Are they better? Are they worse? Look, the bottom line is I have lots of smart things to say about it, and you get to enjoy them in just a second. Look, life can get confusing sometimes, and sometimes you have to know where to reach for wisdom. So where do I go? I go to Spider-Man's uncle, who once so famously said, with great power comes great responsibility. Now look, I'm extremely popular. Everybody knows who I am. Everybody watches my show. Everybody listens to my radio show. So I have this tremendous amount of power. I'm basically like Julius Caesar. As such, I do have a responsibility to use that power responsibly. Wait, that sentence didn't come out right. It doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying. There are some things that I simply refuse to do on the show. I have people telling me all the time, you should call out this guy, you should go after this guy, you should do this, you should do that. And sometimes, in the interest of preserving that person's freedom, in the interest of preserving that person's safety, I choose not to do it. Why? Because I have a platform. The media in the United States of America is having a very difficult time adjusting to the modern age. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say it's we don't even have to go ancient history. Let's say it's 1980, 1990, and somebody screws something up, or doesn't, who knows, but does something that this newspaper doesn't like. They print his name in the paper, they print his face in the paper, and the readers of that paper will get to see it. Maybe, just maybe, another paper or two across the country will pick it up and print his name and face. But that's pretty much where it ends. Very few people are going to look up Oh, let's see. We've got a Mr. Martinez. He did this, and that's ugly. I better go pick up a copy, a hard copy, because there's no internet. I better go pick up a hard copy of the Yellow Pages in the town where he lives and flip through them and see if I can't find his address. Oh, shoot, he's unlisted. I wonder how I can find his employer. I mean, I guess I can do a Freedom of Information. You see how unrealistic that is? Even somebody who did something dumb back in the day, he would do something dumb, gets blasted by a newspaper, and then he's gone. It's over. A bunch of different people don't have access to him, don't have access to his home, his kid's school, his employer. That was the old days. Those old days are gone now, and the media has failed to make an appropriate adjustment for those days. And they have a responsibility to make that adjustment, because you can ruin somebody's life like that now. It's been done time and time again. They're costing people their jobs, costing kids their reputations at school. Did you see what your dad did? I saw on Twitter what your dad did. That's real, people. That's happening now. And major news publications are not realizing what they're doing. Mark Twain once so famously said, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes." Well, let's be honest. It can travel around the world 6 times now while the truth is still putting on its shoes. This invention of the social media mob has changed everything. Today, unlike 1990, that guy does something stupid. 2 minutes on your phone, you've got the guy's hometown. You've got his Facebook page. Oh, let's send a nasty message to his wife. Oh, I just found out he works at this big company. Let's all mob together. Hey, 50,000 people, let's mob together. Let's send his employer what he did. We'll make sure we screenshot it. Oh, his kids go to this school. I bet some of their parents will pick it up, make sure they're asked the next day. Like that, the social media mob can come for you and tear you apart. And the media has a responsibility to adjust, to make important adjustments, because the days of, let's just print his name. What's the harm in it? Well, now there's a lot of harm in it, people. And especially, and I really mean this, especially, what if they get the story wrong? People make mistakes, especially today when everybody's trying to get out there first. Nobody wants to make sure they're right. Oh, we've got to get first. Are you going to be first? Get there first. Oh, I can't believe they were first. What were you doing? I was verifying. We don't have time to verify. Just print the story. I mean, gosh, you remember what happened with Nicholas Sandmann of the Covington High School? When they were at the rally in D.C., they were all wearing their MAGA hats. They were just standing there. Just standing in one place, and then the video clip that you're seeing right now goes around the world of Nick Sandmann standing there while the Indian guy bangs on the drums or bongos or whatever in his face. And how did that one still shot look? How did that one brief camera shot look? Look at this smug white guy. Look at the, honey, did you see what this guy did? Laughing in the face of this genteel old Indian man. How could he do that? Does nobody remember the Battle of Wounded Knee? Only, it turned out Nick Sandmann didn't do anything wrong. You see, he was standing there, never moved. The other guy approached him. You remember how they lionized the other guy too? And that guy's a veteran. He fought for this country. He's a Vietnam War era veteran. Turned out the guy did refrigerator repair and went AWOL in Oklahoma. Yeah, you see, the truth can be a funny thing. But the media, when they first got the picture, they first got the video, they didn't take that extra step. They didn't take that extra time. And they don't. And they haven't. And Sandmann's not an isolated case. And then they went after the kid. They went after the school. They had to close down the school because of threats for a couple days. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not making that up. We have an NBC host with Sandmann on there telling the kid to apologize. There was.
Do you feel from this experience that you owe anybody an apology? Do you see your own fault in any way?
As far as standing there, I had every right to do so.
And he did. And now we all know he did. But what happened? How did that thing blow up so big? One news outlet picked it up, probably on Twitter. Picked it up. Look at this guy. Look what he did. then the others are seeing it. Oh my gosh, look what he did. Look what he did. Look what he did. And soon the kid's name is all over the internet getting destroyed, his family destroyed, his school destroyed, ripping apart his life. Threats on his life. That's real. All because an extra minute wasn't taken to verify the original video. Oh, granted, it finally came out in the end, but by then it was far too late. By then, minds had already been made up. You see, the media, on top of not adjusting to modern times, they have this thing where when they have an object that they hate, which is always a Republican, it's always Donald Trump or one of Donald Trump's supporters, when they have an object that they hate, they don't do the smartest thing in the world. You see, when you're in the press and you have a story that you want to be true, you take an extra step to verify. You don't see something that you want to be true and be like, well, screw verification, we're rolling with it. No. When you see something you want to be true, you take an extra step because you know you're biased. In the same way that a detective is never put on a case where he has a personal relationship with somebody involved in it, he's too emotionally involved to do the job right. When you're the media and you've decided that Donald Trump is the Antichrist and all of his supporters are Nazis, you are simply not emotionally ready to cover that story in a way that is appropriate. And that's what you saw there. They saw a kid in a MAGA hat. They saw an Indian guy banging the bongos. And, well, clearly we know who the good guy is. We know who the bad guy is. That's the danger. And that's the world we live in now. And look, it wasn't isolated to Nick Salmon. This has happened time and time and time again. You all know what a GIF is. We run a younger crowd here mostly, so everybody knows what a GIF is. It's a soundless little 5-10 second video, for lack of a better word, and people edit it and they put stupid faces on them and they do funny things with them all the time. And look, young people are extremely creative and hilarious these days. And some guy out there whose name I actually won't read on camera because it contains a cuss word, some totally anonymous guy out there puts out a GIF of Trump basically body slamming CNN. You see, it was obviously a wrestling GIF and they had Trump come up and they put CNN sign over the face. You know, obviously, look, nobody looks at that and thinks that that was actually CNN getting body slammed, right? I mean, there's really nobody that stupid. Oh, CNN took it very seriously. In fact, you remember I said this guy was anonymous, totally anonymous internet guy that came up with this? He got threatened by CNN. Here's the actual statement. CNN is not publishing Han Blank Solo's name because he is a private citizen who has issued an extensive statement of apology, showed his remorse by saying he has taken down all of his offending posts, and because he said he is not going to repeat this ugly behavior on social media again. In addition, he said his statement could serve as an example to others to not do the same. CNN reserves the right to publish his identity should any of that change. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard me say there, that was real. He said sorry. He's taken it all down. He's agreed to never do it again. But should he ever do it again, we'll blast his name out there, and then you can get him. What? Is this the KGB, or is this CNN? You see, the press has not taken that wonderful statement from Spider-Man's uncle to heart. With great power comes great responsibility. They think, well, we have a platform. We can use it to beat the tar out of anybody we want. Oh, a GIF we don't like? Somebody issue that guy a statement. Tell him if he ever does it again, off with his head. Like I said, there are examples there's a million different examples here. CNN, remember the reporter? You remember the reporter who went to the lady's lawn? Some little old lady, I believe this was in Florida if I remember right, put up a Facebook post they didn't want. They took a news crew to her front lawn. On my life, a news crew to her front lawn off of a Facebook post. People, that's not journalism. That is not media. That is abusing people. And let's be honest, that's bullying. That's a bully right there. Start using your power more wisely. Be a benevolent dictator like I am. I do everything right. Just follow me. Okay. We have another breaking story from the press. There's a picture that may have been doctored. Hang on. Well, credit where credit is due. The wonderful conservative media outlet Daily Wire put out a picture of Donald Trump hanging a Medal of Honor, I believe with a dog paw on it, around the neck of the dog who was involved in that wonderful raid that killed Baghdadi. That was the dog who was injured. The dog's since recovered. Everything's fine. You see it. It's just a funny little picture. Obviously, that Donald Trump's not putting a Medal of Honor around his neck. Well, no, I shouldn't say obviously. It's obvious to you. It's obvious to me. It's obvious to sane people. That does not apply to the United States media. Our corporate press is so broken. We had multiple members of the press, and I don't mean from some tiny jerkwater blog. The New York Times, the Washington Post, we had members of the press fact-checking Donald Trump in his obviously doctored picture because he put he tweeted the picture out there to the world of him. You know, it's a funny, lighthearted thing. Everybody loves the dog. He's putting a Medal of Honor on the dog. This picture doesn't seem real. This picture has been doctored. This is a fake. People, you know why the left is so miserable all the time? They have no sense of humor. There's a wonderful saying out there that says, you find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you are. That is so applicable when you're dealing with the left. Imagine the mind frame you have to be in to look at a picture, a goofy picture the president puts out, lighthearted and fun, of a dog, and think to yourself, that's a fake. He's a liar. I can't do it. All right, that's all we're doing today. I've had enough of this. I'm sure you guys have had enough of me. Actually, let's be honest. You can never have enough of me. So I'll be back to do it again tomorrow. I hope you all have enjoyed I'm Right. I know you have. I'll see you then.